In this section, we're going to explore the plan phase. We're going to start off by outlining some of the key activities that are performed in this phase, as well as environments we're likely to encounter. Thereafter, we'll explore workload types, as well as a method for assessing migration effort, and conclude by outlining migration strategies and risk assessments. Let's explore some planning phase considerations. In the planning phase, it is recommended that you design your resource organization. In other words, how resources will be organized on the cloud platform. It is also important for you to know where you're migrating from and the resources available in the source environment, as well as the capabilities of the environment you're migrating to. Also ensure that you've defined groups and roles and anything else that may be required to configure identity and access management policies. The planning phase provides an opportunity to design the cloud network topology as well as ensure connectivity to the on-premises environment. While it may be possible to manually configure the environment you will be migrating to, it is a best practice to use an infrastructure as code tool in order to fully automate the provisioning of the landing zone. Let's explore some of the environments you're likely to encounter while embarking on a migration project. Many organizations begin by migrating from an on-premises environment that they fully own and control. Many organizations choose to deploy resources within a co-location environment in order to reduce administrative burden and cost. In this module, we're going to be discussing migrations to a cloud environment, which is typically virtualized. Let's explore two common categories of workload types. The first category is legacy workloads. Legacy workloads are workloads that were developed without any consideration for the cloud. Many of these workloads predate the cloud, and therefore they are difficult to modify for a cloud environment, and in most cases, they are very expensive to run and maintain. Cloud-native workloads, on the other hand, are purposely designed for a cloud environment and therefore are natively scalable in the cloud. These applications are typically packaged as container images, making them highly portable, and they can also be easily deployed in a highly available configuration that takes advantage of cloud-native capabilities. These capabilities significantly enhance developer productivity, and there are opportunities to deploy these workloads onto serverless platforms which are fully managed. Let's move on and have a look at some of the methods that could be used to assess workload migration complexity. We're going to start off by having a look at some of the characteristics that makes an application easy to move. Generally speaking, applications that are relatively modern are easier to move. Many of these applications have been developed using more modern frameworks, more modern programming languages, and some of them may even be cloud native. Applications with fewer dependencies are generally less complex and therefore easier to migrate. Cloud migration challenges are not all technical. Sometimes it may be challenging to migrate an application to the cloud due to licensing constraints. Migration projects can be quite complex, and applications that are tolerant to downtime provide a little bit more flexibility that facilitates migration. And while the last point does not specifically relate to the ease of migration to the cloud from a technical perspective, applications that have a quantifiable business value are easier to migrate to the cloud because the investment required can be more easily justified. Let's move on and take a look at the characteristics that makes an application hard to migrate. The more dependencies an application has, the harder it is to migrate. And one of the reasons organizations migrate workloads to the cloud is so they can take advantage of the productivity and cost benefits that the cloud offers. Therefore, applications that cannot scale easily are not a good fit for migration to the cloud. There are many applications that predate the cloud, and some of these applications have complex licensing requirements that makes a migration to the cloud challenging. Let's take a look at the types of workloads that are difficult to migrate to the cloud, if not impossible. Certain applications require specialized hardware that may not be available in the cloud, and in these instances, the applications cannot be migrated to the cloud. There are also instances where an application may have constraints. These constraints may dictate where the application can run. And if the cloud provider doesn't have facilities in that specific region, a move to the cloud will not be feasible. And finally, if the licensing requirements for the workload cannot be accommodated in the cloud, the customer will not be authorized to run the workload in the cloud. We are now going to discuss the common migration types. We're going to start with the most popular, which is lift and shift. Lift and shift is a migration strategy where an application is migrated to the cloud with little or no modifications. This strategy is most suitable where the business case for refactoring or modernizing the application is not compelling. Of all the migration strategies, the lift and shift strategy requires the least amount of time and effort to perform. The next strategy we're going to explore is the improve and move strategy. In the improve and move strategy, the application is being modernized during migration, and this is being done in order for the application to take full advantage of cloud-native capabilities. Modernizing an application improves portability as cloud-native applications are typically packaged as container images. The improve and move strategy is most appropriate where the investment required can be easily justified. And when compared to the lift and shift strategy, the improve and move strategy requires more time and skill to perform. We are now going to explore the final strategy, which is the rip and replace strategy. This strategy is most appropriate when the current application is end of life, and the business case for a complete rewrite of the application is compelling. This provides an opportunity to create an application that is cloud native, one that takes full advantage of the capabilities that the cloud offers. And as you can imagine, this strategy requires the most skill and time to perform, as it requires knowledge of cloud-based services. We're going to end the planning module with a look at risk assessment. The most risky migrations are migrations that involve a migration from a legacy environment to the cloud. It's risky because the technology and the capabilities across the two environments have the most difference. Migrations that have multiple steps also tend to be risky, as each of those steps may present a unique set of challenges. On the other hand, low-risk migrations tend to have fewer application components and fewer migration steps. This concludes our discussion on the plan phase. The plan phase is a very important step in any cloud migration journey as it sets the foundation for success.